and welcome. Tonight, Appeal Court reserves ruling in the federal government's request for a stay of execution on the court's judgment that ordered Nnamdi Kanu's release. River State Governor Nyesom Wike accuses PDP presidential candidate Alhaji Atiku Abubakar of sidelining him in the selection of members of his campaign team from River State. And the federal government launches first phase of National Agro-Industrial Processing Zones program aimed at ensuring food security in the country.
On business news tonight, Nigeria's central bank launches National Domestic Card Scheme to unify the country's payment system, set to take effect on January the 16th, 2023.
On sports news tonight, Aston Villa FC appoint Villarreal boss and former Arsenal manager Unai Emery as their new head coach, replacing Steven Gerrard, who was sacked last week.
And from Abuja, the nation's capital, President Muhammadu Buhari gives Minister of Water Resources 90 days to develop a comprehensive plan of action for preventing flood disaster in Nigeria.
And in international news from London, Ukraine has condemned unsubstantiated claims by Russia that Kiev might use a dirty bomb in the war.
На украинском театре действий тем самым запустить в мире мощную антироссийскую кампанию.
We begin with legal matters, where the Court of Appeal Abuja has reserved judgment in an application by the federal government seeking a stay of execution of the court's judgment that ordered the release of the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, Mr. Nnamdi Kanu. Leading a three-man panel, Justice Haruna Sanami announced that a date for judgment would be communicated to the parties after counsels have adopted their written addresses.
A three-man panel, led by Justice Haruna Sanami, is hearing the federal government's application seeking a stay of the judgment delivered on October 13 by the Court of Appeal, ordering the release of the detained leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, Mr. Nnamdi Kanu. The courtroom is almost empty, except for his legal team, lawyers for the federal government, and his family, who are present to witness the day's proceedings. While arguing its motion for stay of execution, counsel for the federal government, Mr. David Kaswe, tells the court that Mr. Nnamdi Kanu is a huge threat to national security and must be kept in detention for relative peace in the southeast and the whole country, pending the resolution of an appeal already filed at the Supreme Court. He adds that Kanu is a flight risk and would escape out of the country if the judgment which ordered his release was not stayed. However, the lead counsel to Kanu, Mr. Mike Ozekome, dismisses the claim that Kanu jumped bail in his trial at the Federal High Court. Mr. Ozekome claims that the military unjustly invaded Kanu's ancestral home and he escaped death by the whiskers. He further tells the court that the federal government was in contempt of court by not obeying the October 13 judgment and as such has no moral and legal rights to make the request from the same court. He further argues that contrary to the federal government's claim, it is only the release of his client that will ensure peace not only in the southeast but the entire country. Justice Sanami subsequently reserved judgment. Surrounded by traditional chiefs who were in court in solidarity, Kanu's counsel speak on the day's proceedings as efforts to speak to the federal government's lawyer was futile.
Would Nnamdi Kanu leave him? Prisons. Don't forget, any day they hold him further from 13th of October is illegal detention. We're already going to court with a fundamental rights enforcement matter. So it is releasing Nnamdi Kanu that will bring about peace and tranquility, not detaining him.
Following that judgment, there's been pleas for the federal government to obey the order of the court to release Mr. Kanu, a plea the federal government is not considering in view of the suit pending at the Supreme Court.
Meanwhile, the Federal High Court sitting in Abuja has ordered the final forfeiture of 2 properties in the Federal Capital Territory and 2 luxury cars belonging to former Minister of Petroleum Resources, Mrs. Dizani Alison Madueke. Justice Mobolaji Olajuwon gave the order forfeiting the assets to the federal government of Nigeria while ruling on the application by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, seeking the final forfeiture of the assets. The EFCC said the assets were proceeds of unlawful activities. The 2 properties located at plot 1854 Mohammed Mahasha Street and number 6 Aso Drive in the Highbrow, Sokoro and Maitama district of Abuja are valued at over $2 million and 380 million naira respectively. In November 2021, the Commission had secured the interim forfeiture of the assets, after which Justice Olajuwon ordered the EFCC to publish a notice in a national newspaper. In compliance with the order of court, the forfeiture order was published in the newspaper, and in the absence of any contestation, the court today forfeited the properties to the federal government. And now to politics, where the last has definitely not been heard on the face-off between the River State Governor Nyesom Wike and the PDP presidential candidate Alhaji Atiku Abubakar. Governor Wike today gave an insight into why he has not been part of the PDP flag bearers campaign. According to him, Alhaji Abubakar sidelined him in selection of members of his campaign council from River State. The governor disclosed this during the inauguration of the People's Democratic Party Governorship Campaign Council in Port Harcourt, the state capital.
The inauguration of the Governorship Campaign Council of the People's Democratic Party in River State kickstarts with the arrival of Governor Nyesom Wike and the party's leadership. Over 200 names published by the party is to be inaugurated by the governor to convey the message of consolidation of the New Rivers vision. For the PDP seeks to reinforce its dominance in Rivers politics, with Governor Wike's achievements in office being a major driving force.
We go from one area to other and point to them the projects you have executed and let them know that the team that is coming on board will only visit them to ask if there is more to be done. PDP!
Governor Wike, who is the chairman of the campaign council, says the recent recognition in infrastructure delivery by President Muhammadu Buhari further boosts the party's quality leadership, which cannot be contested by the opposition.
What would they tell people of the River State? Do you have anything to tell us? They have nothing. For APC, we don't talk about that again. It's a dead, Afar River State is a concern. It's dead. What would they come and campaign? They come and tell us we didn't do well. How did we not do well? How do we not do well? The president has judged that we have done very, very well. So how can you say we didn't do well? Our result is there.
He also explains why the PDP in River State is not campaigning for its presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar.
The presidential candidate entered River State, picked those he wants to pick, without the contribution of the governor. So they said they don't need me to campaign for them. That they don't want Rivers people to campaign for them. Will you force yourself? No. Will you force yourself? No.
In attendance are the governorship candidate of the party, Siminila Fubara, is running mate Professor Ngozi Odu, among others.
In the name of God, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
The governor also inaugurates the campaign office located on Woji Road in New GRA and donates 2 buses each for the 23 local government areas for the campaigns.
Staying with politics, the governor of Edo State, Mr. Godwin Obaseki, has written off the chances of the ruling All Progressives Congress retaining power after next year's presidential elections because of what he describes as the failure of the ruling party to meet the aspirations of Nigerians. Mr. Obaseki, who was speaking at the inauguration of the Edo State PDP Campaign Council, also took a swipe at the Labour Party and its candidates.
I believe that this will be an easy election for us if we campaign right. Because honestly, we must be. Our heads should be examined as citizens of Nigeria if we would even contemplate voting for a government like APC. In fact, like I said, God forbid APC comes into power. This country will break up. This country will fail. It has already failed. Because, nobody has done the kind of damage the APC government has done to this country. I don't know how we will recover. I honestly don't. For us, my heart is beating that by the time President Atiku gets in, we will not be able to sleep more day and night. As I speak to you today, the debt of this country, of our country, is going to 60 trillion. When are we going to get out of it? Every day, every month, they're printing. When I spoke more than a year ago, I did not know it was as bad as this. What they have done, what will happen to the Naira, only God will help us. They have destroyed the basis of this country. Now they are shouting, everybody has withdrawn children from school. Nobody's going to work or school in Abuja today because there's a threat. That is what they have done. They have threatened the existence of this country. And by the grace of God, our candidate will win. We will bring back to Nigeria. We will unify this country. We will reduce the differences we have. And we'll begin to build our country to what God said we should be. So this election is ours to lose. Because I don't see any other person in the horizon. People who say they are obedient, of course, let them be, but they will run out of steam. We know how to manage elections. How many people have been able to do what we are doing? They can't even form their campaign council, not to talk about having a timetable for elections.
In part two, after the break, is more on politics as our political editor, Seun Okibaloye, feels the pulse of some Nigerians in the United States on their expectations for the 2023 elections. That's in a moment. Please stay with us. Welcome back. If you just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television. Here's a reminder of our top stories. Appeal Court reserves ruling in the federal government's request for a stay of execution on the court's judgment that ordered Nnamdi Kanu's release. River State Governor Nyesom Wike accuses PDP presidential candidate Alhaji Atiku Abubakar of sidelining him in the selection of members of his campaign team from River State. Federal government launches first phase of a national agro-industrial processing zones program aimed at ensuring food security in the country. And UK's incoming Prime Minister Rishi Sunak warns that the country faces profound economic challenges as he promises to serve with integrity and humility. It's about 123 days to the 2023 general elections, and the political space is getting charged. However, the process is getting more attention outside the country than ever before. Some Nigerians in the diaspora believe this is the time for Nigeria to get it right. In this next report, our political editor, Seun Okibaloye, speaks to some Nigerians in the United States about their expectations on next year's elections.
Nigeria may be about 11,000 kilometers away from the United States, but the stories and conversations of the 2023 elections are on the lips of many people in this country, especially about 500,000 of residents who are of Nigerian ancestry. But the big question is, why?
In downtown Washington, D.C., in America's capital, on a chilly evening, I met with
American lawmaker and his friends and staff. Meet Oye Owulewa, a Boston-born politician who has been agitating for a statehood for Washington, D.C. in the House. He has a Nigerian ancestry, and as much as he has his eyes on the American politics and governance, his mind is also on the Nigerian election.
I believe that our opinion is important because not only can we support financially, we should also be able to support advisory. We should be able to go back to Nigeria and feel safe there. You know, Nigeria is our home too. As much as I am an American, I do feel the same way as being Nigerian as well.
He believes there is so much people of Nigerian ancestry or Nigerians living in diaspora can do differently this time to impact on the 2023 polls.
We're expecting a safe and fair elections. We are very proud of the president for signing that historic bill and also reducing the age of candidacy so young people can get more involved.
I met some Nigerian professionals living in Washington, D.C. and in Maryland, a neighboring city. And my question is, why is the 2023 election so important?
Two major reasons, basically, why I'm interested. Level of insecurity and level of unemployment.
I'm passionate about us having a leader that has vision, a leader that will, beyond the usual rhetorics that we get, campaign promises, someone that can deliver.
I'm optimistic, but at the same time, I don't want to be over-optimistic because I'm a Nigerian and I know how things were done in the past.
There are a lot of awareness and interest in this election, and I'm very confident that with the independence of INEC and with enough security around to secure ballots and all that, this election will count and the will of the people will prevail.
They also share their thoughts on the sort of president they wish Nigeria could get next year and the kind of ideas that can help the nation reach its potentials.
A leader that listens to people, a leader that ensures that court judgments have been obeyed, a leader that ensures that security and lives, property of people are being secured.
A country where everybody can live and work peacefully. And number two, the level of unemployment is extremely high. You have to start thinking about job creation.
Although the Nigerian law does not permit diaspora voting, but if these folks get a chance to vote in 2023 elections, what would they do?
Sure, I would actually be going to Nigeria to cast my ballot.
Every wish of people in diaspora is to be able to at least contribute through voting.
We are hoping that Nigeria will get to a place where we can digitally vote from wherever it is.
These Nigerians have high hopes about the future of the largest nation on the African continent, but just like millions of those residing in Nigeria, they have their prayers.
God bless Nigeria.
God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
God bless Nigeria.
May God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
The nation surely needs all the prayers now. Indeed, God bless Nigeria. Seun Okimaloye, reporting for Channels Television News.
They mentioned their prayers away from politics. The federal government has launched a national agro-industrial processing zones program that is aimed at ensuring food security and leveraging the opportunities created by global food supply disruptions occasioned by the Russia-Ukraine war and climate change. Speaking at the official launch of the program in Abuja, the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, expresses optimism about the program's ability to address the country's unemployment and food security challenges in less than a decade.
The Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, is flanked by members of the Federal Executive Council, representatives of the Africa Development Bank, as well as the International Fund for Agricultural Development, as a special agro-processing zones program is launched in Abuja. The $538 million program is a government-enabled and private sector-driven initiative that will mobilize investors and develop agriculture value chains for selected crops and livestock production.
The successful implementation of the 8 SAPs state is expected to create up to 550,000 additional new jobs and contribute up to about 10 million USD to Nigeria's economy annually.
The Vice President of Nigeria,
Professor Yemi Osinbajo, highlights the benefits of the program.
If the Special Agro-Industrial Processing Zones program delivers on its objectives, and we have no doubt that it will, then we would, in less than a decade, deal a fatal blow to food insecurity. We will create millions of good-paying jobs, and we will create an agro-industrial opportunity such as has never been seen on this continent at least.
The processing zones will initially be rolled out in 7 states and the Federal Capital Territory, estimated to create 550,000 direct jobs.
Nigeria is the leading country in Africa, and if Nigeria is hungry, Africa is hungry. The only way we can stop African hunger is to ensure that every single dollar, every single coin coming out of this project has its manifestation in practical results. The criticism of that will lead to the food sufficiency that we all seek.
$538 million has been approved for the creation of these special zones, which the federal government believes will guarantee the country's food security in the years to come.
It's now over to Gloria Mezoke for more stories. Hi, Gloria.
Hello, Millicent. Here in Abuja, we begin with the presidency as floods continue to ravage various parts of the country. President Muhammadu Buhari has directed the Minister of Water Resources, Suleiman Adamu, to lead and coordinate with the Ministries of Environment and Transportation, as well as state governments, to develop a comprehensive plan of action for preventing flood disaster across the country. A statement by the presidential spokesman, Mr. Garba Shehu, says the president's directive, which was conveyed to the minister by his chief of staff, Professor Ibrahim Gambari, directed the minister to present the plan to him in 90 days. The statement further adds that President Buhari is regularly receiving updates on the flooding situation in the country and restates his commitment towards addressing the challenges caused by the menace in the country. The Speaker of the House of Representatives, Mr. Femi Gbajabiamila, is intervening in the visa ban on Nigerians by the United Arab Emirates. The Speaker met with representatives of the UAE and the federal government in Abuja today with a view to finding solution to the crisis. The Minister of Aviation and the Central Bank Governor, who were also present at the meeting, expressed displeasure at the UAE for the visa ban and the country's refusal to allow Nigerian airlines land in the country. Our correspondent Terry Ikumi reports.
This is an effort by the leadership of the House of Representatives to intervene in the ongoing visa issue between Nigeria and the United Arab Emirates. Also of concern is the trapped funds of Emirates Airlines.
If the visa ban is connected in any way, shape or form to the issue of repatriated funds, that is the most nauseating thing I've ever heard. We will sit at the table with the government of Dubai and let them know that Nigeria is not a country that you can toy with.
For several years, decades, we've been making a lot of kill on the Nigerian market. And now we're in a very serious crisis as a nation, economically. And it shows this time, the country has not said they're not going to pay you. The country is paying. It shows this particular time. Is this the way to pay back?
Both the Minister of Aviation and the Central Bank Governor are upset by the decision of the UAE to ban Nigerian airlines from coming into the country, as well as the timing of the decision.
Every country, every airline will threaten Nigeria. We will not fly to Nigeria again. We're not giving Nigeria a visa. We won't do our operations. Please. Countries have been shut completely, and they did well.
You cannot be flying 21 landings into Nigeria, and yet a Nigerian airline cannot fly even one into your country. Those airlines, they want to fly into your country. You are making life difficult for the country, just taking advantage of a country of over 200 million people.
We have, as per our record, as reported with the airlines, 700 million of dollars of airline fund blocked in Nigeria. Apart from Ghana, where we have $8 million of airline money blocked, no single other West African country has a dime of airline money blocked.
The meeting ends without a resolution, but a commitment by the International Air Transport Association to communicate the outcome of the meeting to its members and report back to the House leadership. Terry Ikumi, Channels Television News.
Well, still ahead on the news at 10, Nigeria's central bank launches national domestic card scheme to unify the country's payment system. Well, that's in business news, but join us again. Welcome back. You're still watching the news at 10, coming to you live on Channels Television. We're channeling the right resources and developing helpful policies will substantially engender advancements in the Nigerian mining sector. Well, this is according to the Minister for Mines and Steel Development, Olamilekan Adegbite, at a lecture to mark the 93rd anniversary of the Government College, Ibadan. The lecture, which held at the Bolarinwa Babalakin Conference Hall, Gbongan, Osun State, also identifies the challenges facing the mining sector and relevant steps needed to surmount them.
Anniversary of the Government College Ibadan Old Boys Association, usually marked by an annual reunion program. This annual lecture is deemed a very important part of this annual ritual, and the president of the group, senior lawyer Wale Babalaki, underscores the place of quality education for better governance in Nigeria.
We want to remind Nigerians that this is the way to go. We must reintroduce quality education into Nigeria, and we believe Government College is the best position to lead the way.
The 2022 lecture is focusing on the pivotal role of the mining sector in diversifying the Nigerian economy. And the man superintending over mines and steel development, Mr. Olamilekan Adegbite, who is an old boy of the school, is here to give a breakdown. He rules out some efforts and achievements of the present administration in funding, regulating, and encouraging partnerships in the sector.
President Muhammadu Buhari provided 30 billion in 2017. It was unprecedented. It was extra budgetary, not part of the budget. The budget of the ministry is so small. But you see, mining is capital intensive. You can't do anything with all this money that we receive. But with that 30 billion, half of it, 15 billion, at that time was exactly $50 million, was put into a project called NIME, National Integrated Mineral Exploration Project. And that project has yielded good results.
He also identifies insecurity, policy challenges, and other hurdles standing as roadblocks to mining development in the country.
Insecurity has become associated with mining and vice versa. Because, especially for people who mine gold, it's converted easily to cash. And for those people who are nefarious, who want problem, it's easy for them to sell the gold and buy weapons. That is why, especially today, we ban mining totally in Zamfara.
The audience here cuts across all ages of academic interest, and it's hoped the deliverables translate to more fireworks in the mining sector of Nigeria.
Alaku Ayuwulu, a science teacher at the Federal Government College, Jos, has emerged the 2022 Maltina Teacher of the Year with a cash prize of 6.5 million naira, among other rewards. The first and second runners-up, Mr. Musa Seidu from Borno State and Ms. Ifoma Stella from Enugu State, received 1.5 million naira and 1.23 million naira respectively at the formal presentation ceremony in Lagos. A Lifetime Leadership Achievement Award was also presented to the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, while a recognition award was given to former chairman of Nigerian Breweries, Mr. Felix Ohiwere.
The occasion is the 8th edition of the Maltina Teacher of the Year Competition Awards. Dignitaries present here include former chairman of the company, Felix Ohiwere, and the Vice President of Nigeria, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, as well as the top management of the Nigerian Breweries PLC. With the first edition kicking off in 2015, getting to the 8th edition has been a journey. A total 1,027 entries were received this year.
And from this pool of champions, the top 10 candidates then went on to formal interviews and assessment by the panel of judges.
Before the awards roll in, Vice President Yemi Osinbajo commends the Nigerian teachers for their resilience and dedication to duty, which he describes as impactful.
The teacher must be appreciated. Everyone needs affirmation and encouragement because it can only lead to greater achievements. And this is why I think the Maltina Teacher of the Year Award is an incredible boost for teachers and the teaching profession.
It's time for the awards. A Lifetime Leadership Achievement Award is presented to the Vice President of Nigeria, Yemi Osinbajo, who in turn presents a recognition award to the former chairman of Nigerian Breweries, Felix Ohiwere. From the 30 state champions, the final 10 then take the stage, with Plateau State coming tops as Alaku Ayiwulu emerges winner of the 2022 Maltina Teacher of the Year with a prize of 6.5 million naira.
Nothing less destiny. I have waited patiently. I have vision, though I believe. I know I can count on me. So stand up for the champions, for the champions. Stand up.
It's been overwhelming. It's visible. I will look for ways that I will give back to the community and do my best, continue being who I am.
We are now getting almost 1,100 people that are interested, that are qualified. We want to grow it. We want to make sure that teachers in Nigeria get what they deserve.
The Maltina Teacher of the Year competition is funded by the Nigerian Breweries Felix Ohiwere Education Trust Fund.
Well, that's it from the nation's capital. It's back to you, Millicent.
Many thanks, Gloria. I guess the teacher's reward is not so longer in heaven, but here on earth as well. Still to come on the news at 10. UK's incoming Prime Minister Rishi Sunak warns that his country faces profound economic challenges ahead. That's tonight's national news and around the world in 5. Please stay with us. Time for some business news now. Here's Anne Wilder.
Thank you, Millicent. Hello and welcome to Business News. We begin with an announcement by the Central Bank of Nigeria announcing an introduction of the National Domestic Card Scheme, which is expected to unify Nigeria's payment ecosystem. In a statement released today, the CBN says the initiative, which takes effect from January the 16th next year, will be delivered through the Nigeria Interbank Settlement Systems (NIBSS) in conjunction with the Bankers Committee and other financial ecosystem stakeholders. According to the Apex Bank, the scheme will bring innovation within the country's domestic market and allow banks and other institutions offer a variety of solutions within Africa and outside the continent. The CBN also explains that Nigeria has joined a growing list of countries such as India, Turkey, China, and Brazil as leading examples which have launched domestic card schemes and harnessed the transformative benefit for their respective payments and financial systems. We head to the trading floor now. Activities on the Nigerian exchange resumed the week on positive note. Bargain hunting in MTN Nigeria supported market performance today. Inijon Mekwa has the details.
Welcome to the stock market reports. It's the first trading day of the week. Good news, it's sustained rebound from Friday, even though we're not back to our usual levels, but the bull is here. So what we see is the all-share index is at 0.15% in the green, but it's still at 44,461.63 at the close of trade today, and the market cap still down there at 24 trillion naira. The activity chart shows a decline in volume and deals. The only green we have today is the value, trying to sustain that green color at 2.17 billion. Volume normally would be more than 100 million, but we just have 72 million. And of course, the deals there really lower than what we normally have in the markets. Now, over to the gainers chart, and we see Red Star X there gaining 8.22%, and that's equivalent to 2.37 Kobo, leading the gainers chart. Better Glasses there and a Wapik at just 5.88%. The flip side has Unilever leading. Unilever did some movement, positive movement last week. It looks like there may be some investors taking profit from there. At 10% it lost today. That's the maximum that any stock could gain. So it's a mildly good way to start the week. What we hope for is a sustained rebound, a sustained bargain hunting, and then perhaps we'll close this week in the green. That's the stock market report. It's back to you.
And that's Business News. Thank you for watching. I'm Anne Nwawadu. It's back to you, Millicent.
Thank you, Anne. And Rishi Sunak has warned the country faces profound economic challenges. This is after winning the Conservative Party's leadership contest. Here's Simon Pusi with more in Around the World in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Ukraine has condemned unsubstantiated claims by Russia that Kyiv might use a dirty bomb, conventional explosives laced with radioactive material. It comes after Russia's general in charge of nuclear, biological and chemical defense said there was a Western plot to smear Russia. President Volodymyr Zelensky said this meant Russia itself could be preparing an attack of this kind. Xi Jinping has become the first leader since Mao Zedong to be chosen as the party chief for a third term. Xi and new members of the Standing Committee, top ruling body, received a standing ovation from delegates of the Communist Party's 20th Congress. But the markets weren't as positive. Stocks in Hong Kong slumped and China's currency, the yuan, weakened against the US dollar over concerns that Mr. Xi will continue with his ideology-driven policies at the cost of economic growth. The United Kingdom has another Prime Minister, the third in under 2 months.
One valid nomination. Rishi Sunak is therefore elected as leader of the Conservative Party.
The announcement was made earlier today in the Palace of Westminster by Sir Graham Brady. Rishi Sunak has become the country's first person of colour to hold the top job. Aged 42, he is also the youngest Prime Minister for over 200 years. The former Chancellor had been up against Penny Mordaunt in a two-horse race after former Prime Minister Boris Johnson pulled out. A Brazilian politician is in custody after throwing grenades at a police officer who came to his house in Rio de Janeiro state to arrest him. Roberto Jefferson, an ally of the far-right President Jair Bolsonaro, wounded 2 officers before surrendering. Pictures have emerged of police cars with shattered windscreens. Former President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva described the incident as an attempt to destroy democratic values. The United Nations say at least 23,000 people have fled their homes following fresh clashes in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo between government soldiers and M23 rebels. Here, refugees pictured at Bunagana border in Kizoro district. In total, more than 390,000 people have been displaced since March. A statement from the army said it controls the situation on all the fronts. It added that 4 civilians were killed and 40 others, including children, were injured in the clashes. A Korean Airlines co-limited jet with 173 people on board has overshot the runway at Cebu International Airport in the Philippines. Video from the scene on social media showed widespread damage to the plane, with the nose landing gear appeared to have been collapsed. The airline said the Airbus had tried to land twice in poor weather before it overran the runway on the 3rd attempt. They also said there were no injuries reported. A mini tornado has hit a village in northern France, tearing roofs off buildings, turning vehicles upside down and littering streets with debris. The tornado, a very rare event in France, formed in a matter of minutes, taking residents and authorities by surprise. Up to 2/3 of houses in the village have been heavily damaged. Here, videos showing winds blowing over chairs outside a restaurant in the northern French city of Amiens as rain lashed the building. And finally, young parkour athletes in Paris are increasingly running, swinging and vaulting in urban spaces as part of what's been dubbed lights-off operations. They make use of kill switches regularly placed on the outside of buildings in France. They say their actions help enforce Paris City Hall orders that say all signs must be extinguished of light in the middle of the night. The Paris-based On The Spot collective is just one of several parkour groups that have been acting against light pollution and wasteful energy use in cities across France for the past 2 years. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel studios in Lagos.
Many thanks, Simon. Welcome to Sports News. Former Super Eagles players Kanu Nwankwo and Tijani Babangida are appealing to the new executive committee of the Nigeria Football Federation to give grassroots football a top priority as it remains key to the development of the sport in the country. They say if the football must improve, then the NFF must get the structures right. Former Arsenal coach Unai Emery will return to the English Premier League in November as the new head coach of Aston Villa Football Club. Emery, who leaves his post at Spanish club Villarreal, takes over from Steven Gerrard, who was sacked last week after Villa slumped to a 3-0 defeat to Fulham. And PSG have denied they paid Kylian Mbappe a sensationalist contract figures, of which is rumoured to be around £551.6 million across 3 years. And that's Sports News.
And the main news again, the appeal court today reserved ruling in the federal government's request for a stay of execution on the court's judgment that ordered Nnamdi Kanu's release. That's your news at 10 to 9. Thank you for watching. I'm Melissa Nfonwoka. Have a good night and stay safe.